What's good, peeps? Thanks always for passing by the channel. Much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. All right, so it was announced yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that Callum Smith will defend his WBA super middleweight strap against his mandatory John Ryder. Callum Smith also has one of these WBC diamond belts. I don't know if that's up for grabs or is it just a trinket. Really and truly, that belt, and this is going off subject now, that belt should be up for grabs tomorrow. Is it tonight when Darrell takes on Benavidez? Darrell, obviously the current WBC champion. Benavidez, I'm pretty sure, was the former WBC champion who got stripped because of that cocaine issue. That makes sense, right? It makes sense for the winner of that fight to get the WBC diamond belt. But yeah, going off subject there. So, all right, Callum Smith versus John Ryder, Liverpool, November 23rd. It's good that the fight card, or a fight card, is back in Liverpool. I feel like Liverpool has somewhat been neglected over the last couple of years by Matchroom. So it's good that they can get a fight card back there. They've not announced anything about the undercard, but I'm guessing David Price might be an option. There might be even room for a Kell Brook on the card. I know Kell Brook says he wants to fight on the AJ Ruiz card, but I guess if he can't get a decent level opponent for the AJ Ruiz card, they might just chuck him on this one and give him someone to fight. Isn't it the same day? Could be wrong here. Isn't it the same day as Nigel Ben Sakiobika? Not that that matters. I don't even know why I mentioned it. All right, what do you guys think of the fight? Interest levels, 0 to 10. 10 being unbelievably interested, 0 being couldn't give a fuck. I am a 4. I'm a 4. So kind of middle of the ground. I think it's decent little scrap. I actually think it's a decent little scrap. I prefer this John Ryder at 168 pounds compared to the John Ryder at 160. I think this John Ryder at 168, in my eyes, is unbeaten. I know people will say he got beat by Rocky Field in split decision. I thought he won that fight. So at 168 pounds, he's unbeaten. There was a lot of talk about John Ryder taking on Chris Eubank Jr. That could have been a decent scrap at 168. Callum Smith's obviously a lot bigger, but I think most people are going to be bigger than John Ryder at 168. But he comes to scrap. He comes to fight. I've got a list of the names of the guys he's beaten so far at or the guys he's fought, sorry, at 168. Nothing great on there. Adam Etches in 2017. Rocky Field in that fight in 2017. Patrick Nielsen as well. Jamie Cox, who's like the fucking smallest super middleweight you're ever going to see in your life. Andrei Sirotkin and Bilal Akawi? I probably butchered that name, right? Who was a last minute replacement. I remember that. There was talk about John Ryder not being on the fight card, and I think Golden Boy found that fighter who I think was unbeaten, but obviously came in very late, and John Ryder done the job. So look, John Ryder's a decent fighter at 168 pounds. Again, nothing special, but he's got the job done in all of those fights. And I thought he beat Rocky Fielding, which I don't know if that means much. But the reason I say that and mention Rocky Fielding is because of the size. Everyone talks about Callum Smith being a big 168 pounder. Rocky Fielding also is quite a big 168 pounder. And he dealt with that size and that reach quite well, getting in very close. Callum Smith's a level, obviously, above Rocky Fielding, but I don't think the size difference would be as big a factor as people think it will be. Plus, I'm not still super sold on Callum Smith being this monster. I think Callum Smith's a great fighter, I really do, but I'm not super convinced yet. I'm not. Again, the big win, and I think the reason people think of him as this monster is George Groves. George Groves that retired, coming off shoulder surgery. Again, that was a limited George Groves. So I think it will be a decent little scrap. I think Callum Smith will get the job done. And then what next, right? Obviously, now he's got this fight. I guess all that talk about him leaving Matchroom is done and dusted. He's there to stay now for at least the next couple of years. So what next after that? I mean, some of the names he mentions are exciting fights and big names. He wanted or was in the mix for a Kovalev fight. People were talking about that. Moving up to 175 and takes on the likes of Bivol. Bivol's been mentioned. Canelo's been mentioned. Triple G's been mentioned. I have no problem with him mentioning all these kind of super fights, right? And those ones are quite super. The only issue I have, so I do have a problem. That makes no sense. I'm contradicting myself. The problem I have is that you take on those super fights when you've, for me, cleaned up your own division. That's my thing, right? He's talking about super fights I'm like, you done nothing at 168. I mean, you should really be screaming for the rooftops about fighting the win of Anthony Durrell versus Benavidez. That's what you should be doing. You should be saying, I want to fight Caleb Plant. That's what you should be doing. Now Billy Joe Saunders is up there and he's got a belt. You should be screaming for that fight. But yet we're hearing about Canelo and GGG. Well, not from you, but from Joe Gallagher about those fights. So let's see what he does with John Ryder. Again, I remember I said this here. This won't be easy. He's not getting rid of John Ryder in 1 or 2 rounds. Not happening. Not happening. I don't think so. I think he'll get rid of him, but I'm thinking sort of the late second half of the fight. So I'm thinking sort of rounds 8, 9. I think he'll wear him down just because of that size, possibly, and then maybe get rid of him. But John Ryder's a decent little fighter. Again, nothing special, but a decent little fighter. Hence why I give it a 4 out of 10 for level of interest. How many fucking shows, and we'll close on this by the way, how many shows are Matchroom putting on? It feels like there's a show every single week. It feels like there's a show. Look, I'm not complaining, but I can't remember ever them putting on this many shows. Pretty good, because I'm pretty sure they've got the one in Manchester around that date. They got one in Newcastle. Obviously, we've got Joshua. Golovkin's part of them in it next week. Fucking hell, doing a good job is Matchroom. Doing a good job. Peace.